This is Movies, a podcast about losing $4,000 in 24 hours on meme coins. And with me today is depression.
Yeah, my microphone just got fucked up as soon as you started talking, so I'm not even sure if you can hear me right now or not. Can you hear me?
Hold on, you're muted. I'm fucking with you, Hans.
Hello, how's it going?
How are we
You lost
doing
how
today?
much? 4,000?
I lost $4,000 in meme coins.
Is that why you were late?
That's why we canceled yesterday's show. Is I had to cope with that. I had to go take a long walk around the neighborhood and deal with my feelings about that. You know, but hey, I'm up $300 today thanks to Dave Portnoy's Greed 2. Anyway, we got back with us Ryan Jackson. Ryan, how are you doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Well, I've been better.
You've been better. I mean, meme coins. Damn. Yeah, that's like riverboat gambling for 2025.
It really is. It really is that. So, I mean, it's the best of times and the worst of times. Truly, I can't really complain all that much. I've had more fortune than misfortune so far. Much like the characters in Pusher, you know, things are going great, and then suddenly they're not going so great, and suddenly they're in thousands of krone of debt, which we talked about on the last show when we were talking about Pusher, the 1996 Nicolas Winding Refn movie, and we did dabble in the Pusher trilogy a little bit during that. But I hadn't gone back and watched Pusher 3 yet. I had watched Pusher 2 the day we recorded that show, and it was fresh on my mind. And I did a quick touch-up right before this show for that again. So it was my second time watching it probably in the last month. And then I went back and watched Pusher 3 for the first time in probably 10 years. And, you know, I don't know if it's just movies continue to get worse, and so all the older movies continue to get better. But my opinion of it really soared on this go-around, which we'll get into. But you've got Pusher 2 in the background here. For anybody on patreon.com/Lores who's watching this right now, you can see on Ryan's camera, he's got Pusher 2 being projected behind him.
Wait, did you say your opinion changed this time?
That's
soured?
right. No,
Oh.
sword.
Sword. Oh, sword. Okay, gotcha. All right. Sorry. I thought you said soured. I was like, really? Because I saw it for the first time today, and I don't have many negatives to say about that third one.
Well, was this your first time watching Pusher 3?
Yeah, I'd seen the second one before, but not the third one. I don't think I had ever gotten to it, and I was pleasantly not. I don't want to say surprised because I think it's consistent with the trilogy, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Not to get off topic here, fellas, but I do think you guys should create a shirt with Han's giant mug on it because it's just become such a part of the show now, and it would be really.
I think the real move would be to make our own giant mugs from the low-res shop and sell them. Sell them for like $60 a piece. Hans, how much did yours cost?
It was $3.
Okay, it's going to be $70 USD in the lowres.org shop. That'll be way
Yeah, you got to make
much.
up for the tariffs. Yeah, for sure. You got
That's
to make
exactly
it up.
right. Hans, could you just take like a pottery class maybe, and I'll pay you $5 a mug?
Sure. Yeah, I'll put some of the DNA on it to make it creepier.
What do you mean DNA? That's so
will
vague. That sounds
spit.
sexual.
I will spit on it as I'm making it, and then you have a little bit of me on each. Then we can charge 100.
Yeah, that's a great
Or
idea.
20, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. This is stupid. You got to get rid of that mug. This is like a Monty Python bit or something every time that mug comes out.
I don't. If you had never said anything, I don't think anyone would have noticed.
I don't think that's true at all. I think it would eventually come up. I think there's going to be people in the Discord that are eventually photoshopping the mug to be even bigger and gradually just larger and larger.
Yeah.
I don't take it that you found that handle is ridiculous too on that mug. But you know what? It's kind of required, I guess. It's like a fucking door handle. Anyway, you haven't seen Pusher though, Hans. You still haven't gotten a hold of Pusher, I'm assuming. I mean, sorry, not Pusher, Gambler.
What?
Gambler. You haven't seen Gambler.
Oh no, I still haven't been able to find it. No.
You can. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can watch it for $4 on buynwr.com or something. I think, yeah. I wouldn't recommend paying $4 for it.
Yeah.
Because you can get it with. I think it's on the deluxe edition of the Pusher trilogy or something like that.
Yeah, the 4K box set came with it equipped. And we actually tried to do the rental for NWR.com, and I told Hans, just use a proxy server, I'll reimburse you, obviously.
Yeah.
And they still said, nah, we're not going to let you rent it. I mean, maybe. Hans, where did you pick? What country did you pick for your proxy server? Did you pick Denmark?
No.
No, you didn't. You probably picked the United States or something. Well, that explains that.
Well,
That's why there's no
I was
Gambler
thinking-
episode.
I was thinking if I pick Denmark, I'm probably not gonna get English subtitles, right? I'm just gonna get Danish, and what is that good for? Just looking at him for an hour and a half, great.
You think they region code the subtitle distribution?
Maybe. I mean,
I mean, I know
For
you
this-
can't. I know you can't stream in America any of the Pusher 4K from that site, any of the new 4K scans. So I'm wondering, that might be a valid point. I wonder if you could.
Well, the
Give
box
sub.
set I got from NWR has English subtitles. It has several different subtitles, so I would assume it would be available for the website as well. The one downside of that was, and I probably mentioned it on the last show we did, I really got it for the commentary tracks because I guess there's some new commentary tracks, and there were no subtitles for the
For the commentary
tracks.
track, right?
Yeah.
I saw that on the site. It was like it's a new subtitle. I'm like, but it's in Norwegian or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? Yeah, that sucks. But I did watch Gambler a long time ago, and it is a good documentary. It's a very interesting, I think, peek or glimpse into sort of where Refn was before making the Pusher movies, and how, like, he was pretty much in debt. I mean, he was flat fucking broke, negative bank accounts, because of Fear X. And I think the company that they started, didn't it like basically shutter? Like it was like they lost all the money.
Mhm.
And he was like, he had no money. His wife at the time, I think they weren't even married yet. He was his girlfriend, right? And she was like, we've got to make, like, she was like ready to leave, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could see the desperation in Refn. I remember one part of the documentary very vividly, which is, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but the point where Refn's like, well, we still got each other, right? And I was like, oh, he's down bad. Oh shit. But she stayed, she hung tough, and he did come through, and actually, I think now they're good, but it was a rocky relationship point right there. Because yeah, Refn definitely had no fucking money and was definitely gambling. I think the way they paid for these Pusher movies was like, it was kind of, and I don't know if you've seen the documentary. I know you have, Jay. You've watched it recently.
Yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it like Refn, like basically like kind of him and his partner kind of like betting more or less, like against like the
So here's how it worked. They worked with a production company on Fear X that was not so confident in Refn's abilities to deliver money with whatever he was going to do next. But then he started talking to them. He's like, listen, here's what I'm actually thinking. I'm thinking maybe we do Pusher 2. We go back, and I have 2 stories in mind for this. And everything hinged on Pusher 2 going over well with the company, so they would grant him the budget to do Pusher 3, which they would then divide 3 ways. And so if they didn't want to do Pusher 3, then he's in like 1 million krone more debt, or whatever the budget for Pusher 2 was. So everything would get fundamentally worse financially for him. And instead, the company really dug Pusher 2. They were happy with what they were looking at, and so they greenlit Pusher 3 immediately without Pusher 2 having come out in theaters yet. And so they got, I think, 2 million for Pusher 3, and you see in the documentary he's talking to his producer partner. He's like, okay, so 1 million goes to the movie, and then you and I can divide the other million. That's what they did, and that fixed his situation. So Gambler is a tight, fun.
It's funny.
Oh, your microphone cut out there.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because that situation, I don't know if people realize that kind of situation is very normal in putting films together. Like,
Oh yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like I've seen firsthand like situations like that where like the whole project is hinged on sort of like one person's, or one company financing it, and then also like the main people, like as in the filmmakers, the producer, like looking at the budget and being like, all right, well, half of this money is going to us, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like it's really like that. Like it's funny because it's like people may watch this documentary and be like, oh, that's like, no, that's normal. Like it's not even Hollywood, but like there's some Hollywood shit though.
Oh
It's like,
no, it happens at every level. I mean, Hans and I have been talking about a colleague of ours, somebody we know, got financing for one of their movies, and not like a crazy sum of money or anything,
mm,
but the first thing that they factored in before even like going to shoot the movie was, okay, so everybody has to get paid on this thing, and there's only like 3 people, so it's like, how much are we going to pay ourselves for working on our movie here? Okay, let's take that from the board. And then you take a look at what winds up happening with the movie, and it's like, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Maybe you should have maybe cut that in half. Maybe you got a little too thirsty with that amount of money there. I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know. But it happens at every level.
Yeah, I
And
guess it happens every time you see a movie and you're like, where did the 30 million go? This doesn't even look like a 5 million movie. That's probably where it went, their pockets.
that's exactly
I
right.
will try, guys. I will try to keep my head. Wait a minute. I mean, if so, you can't, because I noticed what scene's on behind me, and it's the
Oh yeah,
scene.
we're about to see his dick and his
Oh.
ass and
I'm
some
trying to like
breasts.
I'm trying to like move my head so y'all can show this on YouTube. I didn't think about this,
Yeah,
guys.
cover those sad titties that you see there. That's it.
Yeah,
Uh,
just blur this out.
I think we'll be okay. I think it'll be
Yeah.
obscured enough, just due to the color. The color is very
Yeah,
harsh
the
in that
color, and
scene.
it's also out of focus too back here, so
Hmm.
maybe that'll help a little bit. But
No,
yeah.
we're dandy. We're fine. All right, so the first movie we're talking about is going to be Pusher 2, which is a sequel that was released in, what was it, 2004? Hans, could we take a look at this real quick? Was it 2004, 2005? Maybe the second Pusher was
4.
2004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we started talking about it on the last show, but Kim Bodnia does not return for this movie. He's just kind of casually mentioned. And it's about Mads Mikkelsen's Tony getting sprung from prison. And something I actually noticed with this movie, with Pusher 3, Fear X, Bleeder, what Refn does in his early films is he'll just straight up tell you what the movie's about in the first 10 minutes. He'll have a character explain it through dialogue, and then everything comes back around by the very end of it. And you have that here with the Tony character in his cell talking to another guy who is giving him a story about how he blew up these, organized crime guys who were wanting a piece of his business. And what sets him apart from him is the fact that he has set an impression that you can't fuck with me. Tony hasn't done that. By the end of the movie, that's essentially what winds up happening is he turns against his father, the Duke, after he fails to come through with one very easy mission. Everybody does it. Everybody kills, a woman, a prostitute who's birthed your father's child. Everybody's done that, right? So, what do you got, Hans?
Uh, I think this one's my favorite just because of how much of a loser the main character is and how much of just the a bother, a burden to everyone in his life. This Tony character is, and I guess the movie is what it's about him. I guess trying to get his life back together, but no one believing in him because he's just a fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really enjoyed his, fake confidence, his fake whenever he was trying to like make himself sound like he was better than he actually is. Either no one believed him or he would do something to fuck it up. And I just really, I really enjoy flawed characters, and I feel like this Tony, especially because of his performance, very young Matt Mikkelsen. Well, not as young as on Pusher, but
No, he's
'cause
about
this is
40 here, I want to
yeah.
say. He's still pretty
This
old.
is it's 12 years later. But no, 10 years later? When did it come out? 8 years later?
It's almost 10 years. It's 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing him just deal with everyone else that has their shit together more than him, I guess, and just how he navigated that to a weird I was reading reviews of people to see what they think of the ending because I was wondering if there was people that see it as like a positive, like a happy, like a oh see he's now getting his shit back together and he's gonna use his son for this. And I saw that many people saw it that way. Maybe it's like my negative thinking, but that to me was more like oh well that kid is fucked now because there's nothing about Tony throughout the movie that show us that he's learned anything, even before he takes the baby. Everything that happens in that last scene, it doesn't really tell you that he'll be able to, all of a sudden put it together, what he hasn't done throughout the movie. So to
No, no,
me,
he
it's
can't even take care of himself, let
yeah,
alone what it would be to take care of an infant. It's kind of crazy to think that he wouldn't just get on another bus and head back and try to apologize to somebody for killing his own dad. That would be 100% in that character's nature, but open it. We
But
don't know anything about him.
was the baby was pretty, I mean, his baby's mama was pretty shitty.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, everyone. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right,
But
right,
that's the
right.
thing. Like, he's saving the baby from a horrible situation, but it's like, what is your situation going to be
Yeah, yeah. You
with that
wonder,
baby
you
too?
wonder, like, what's worse, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
kid
yeah,
with
yeah.
the mom or the kid with Tony? It's a toss up. It's definitely a toss up. I do think that this movie's kind of like The Godfather 2 if it was like about Fredo.
Mm.
Like it was like Fredo's movie, like the fucking loser, fuck up,
The fuck up.
and they just make it his movie. That's kind of why I like this one the most, because it Refn does that cool thing of like, let's just make this character like completely like a, a piece of shit, but like also in a loser, but like let's follow him the whole way.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and like go with this guy, like, and I think that's what makes this movie stand out of the trilogy for me, more than the first or the third. But and it's Mads. Mads has just got a charisma. Like he's just a charismatic. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what character he's playing. He just has a certain kind of watchability. He could play an absolute moron. He could play Hannibal. He could play,
Yeah.
whatever, a one-eyed Viking. Mads is just, he's got that quality, and I think that was a smart decision by Refn to say the second movie would be about Mads. It didn't matter. I think it would have been about Mads regardless, even if Mads was another character. I think Refn would have chose to make a second movie centered around him anyways, because it's just like so obvious. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. And you don't necessarily get that impression with the first movie because he is such a comic relief character. And he's definitely a comic relief character in this one as well, but he's much more dimensional than what we wind up getting in the first Pusher movie. And you start to understand maybe why he's fucked up in the way he is, but maybe he's actually kind of decent underneath that. Or maybe he's not. You don't really have this. He's a well intentioned guy. He's a bit of a coward. He's a stupid idiot,
Yes.
but he's very likable and he's funny. And some of the characters he surrounds himself with are also very funny. What comes to mind is the cameo scene from Milo that happens during the drug deal with him and Kurt the Cunt. And I forgot just how funny it is when Kurt dumps the heroin into the toilet. He just automatically assumes it's police at the door, and he dumps
Well,
the
because
bag
they're
of heroin at
high,
the toilet.
right?
Yeah,
They're
well,
high as shit. Yeah, so
he's
paranoid. Yeah.
he's tasting. He's giving a taste test basically to the heroin, and then there's Tony
Is it a
tells him, "Oh,
Skag? It's Skag, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
but remember that him and Tony are doing a bunch of coke before heroin, whatever they do before Milo
Mhm.
gets there, or Milo, or
before the
whatever you say
meeting."
his name. Yeah, before the meeting. So he's high as shit and paranoid as fuck, which is why as soon as someone knocks on the door, he dumps it. But yeah, they're high for like a while, so I guess that kind of makes sense. But it's a really funny scene because then he's like, "Well, can I get a refund?"
Can I get my? I want my money back.
Yeah.
That's such like a kid in school thing to do. Is like you drop your lunch tray on the ground and you try to get your $4 back for dropping the school pizza. He doesn't have. I think what Refn really executes so well in these Pusher movies is the lack of comprehension for either being able to look ahead or deal with consequence. I think that is a character trait that you find in Tony, you find it in Frank in the first movie, and also to some degree you get it with Milo in the third film when we get there. But in this movie, I don't know. I at points Kurt almost steals the show for me, and it's kind of a shame he doesn't come back for a more significant role in that third movie. And he's definitely one of the highlights. The actual guy, the actor
Yeah.
or actor who portrays Kurt, he's such a character in that, and he's such a nuisance and an annoyance. And I was like, oh man, I can relate to that so much. Of you're bringing in somebody who's not like a trained actor, who doesn't have much experience, and then you're bringing that energy, you're injecting it into a film set where there are people who are used to it being one certain way, where it's like maybe art scene kids, but then you have this guy. And that's the vibe in some of the scenes from Gambler, the documentary where he's interacting with him, when Refn's interacting with him.
Yeah, he's just a funny person. You can tell like he's not acting.
No.
He just shows up and it's him. Like you
Mhm.
I did like his cameo in 3 and the pun that they made. It's the cunt with hair. I thought that was that was a good that was a good pun. But
Or the,
yeah,
what is
I
it?
liked him.
The cunt is dry when he's annoyed.
Yeah. I like the fact that he comes up with the stupidest fucking plan once he flushes the drugs. He's like, all right, listen, I gotta tell the guys that I was robbed, shoot me in the fucking arm. Like what? And then they have a problem, and they have a problem buying the gun because they don't have enough money to buy the gun, and he has to like give the Muhammad guy his chain. It's just everything about it is so like low level criminal, petty criminal, like fuck up shit that is so it's so real because guys like that,
Yep.
and guys that are in situations like that like all the time. I mean, and Tony's one of them. So
Something I saw on the Nicholas Winding Refn subreddit today when I was shilling the episode we just did on Pusher. Somebody had a post that they put up that said, hey, why didn't Frank have any backup cash? If he had backup cash, he could have just paid Milo and it would have been fine. That was an actual Reddit post. I was just like, yeah, well, then you don't have all right. So what if the movie didn't happen is basically, what is the point of this? Why are we hypothesizing this?
What if it was a 30-second short instead with a regular ending with no story?
Yeah.
This movie's like giving Sick Boy from Trainspotting its own movie, which is probably why I like it so much, because you get the fuck up of the group, which you never really follow that much. Whenever you get a character like this, you follow them maybe for 1 or 2 scenes, but you never get a movie that's focused on the fuck up, on the, the guy that never wins, the guy that can't get hard, king of what is it? What's
The
it
King
called?
of Cocks.
King of Cocks that can't get hard. So like everything that he does and everything that he says is just bullshit, and it's just him trying to make himself look better than he actually is, but nobody believes him. I love the fact that the whole movie is just him, and he doesn't really learn anything. He doesn't really change. It's just a couple of days in the life of this fuck up, and at the end there's no growth, there's no nothing. It's just you've been with him a couple of days, and then he made a decision at the end that you don't know if it's going to be a happy ending or not, but it's just like a slice of life of a fuck up. And
I will
I
say
think
this.
yeah.
I will say this about the where he gets to at the end. He finally stands up to his father by killing his father, then takes his son, and that he's going to try and attempt to be the type of father that he didn't have. as his dad was the Duke. I mean, when your dad's the fucking
Yeah.
Duke, I mean, his dad is like, he's got that one son that's like kind of like Elon's son that he carries around with him all the time. He likes that kid, like, and he
Yeah.
hates the other ones, like he hates
Aaron.
him.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I do feel like, wow, yeah, he doesn't have like a traditional like arc or anything, but I do feel like he went through a substantial journey where he finally was like, yeah, my dad sucks and fuck this guy. I'm just gonna get rid of him and I'm gonna take my kid and go. So I do think that was big for Tony. Now where that goes, who fucking knows? Are they even alive? Probably not. But you know,
But is it that he changed, or is it the speed that he did on the scene before he killed his dad that pushed him to the edge? When
right,
his dad spit on him, he was like, "All right, well, under the influence, and he spit on my face, so I'm gonna kill him." You know, because I believe the scene before that he's like very
right,
high because he can't kill the woman.
right.
So I wonder if that's like also, instead of like being just pure growth of the character, or like I'm sick of this shit. It's more to do with like, well, now you've spit on my face and you've been humiliating me for the whole movie. I mean, his life, I guess.
Right.
And then he's high, so that's like an extra step towards, all right, I'm done, you know?
Right. And I don't even think I'm a big proponent of the idea that characters don't have to change.
Mm.
And I don't necessarily think that that moment's a change in Tony, really. I mean, it's a change in the fact that his father, who sucked, is no longer alive. So that's a
Yeah.
change. But like,
And,
has he
and
really?
you're kind of waiting for that moment too,
Right,
because you're
right. It's
just
kind of
like, Jesus.
inevitable. Right. It's kind of inevitable. The way everyone keeps treating him, like over and
Yeah.
over again, like it's kind of inevitable. It's building. It's building to this inevitable conclusion where you're like, all right, he's only going to take so much. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, like he's only going to take so fucking much. And his father just was like the final straw. So while it's not a change, it still feels like a substantial point. Like, and I mean, if you kill your dad, I think that's a significant point, a
Yeah.
moment in your life, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it also, I think it also brings up a bigger point that that it's that at a low level like that, there's no one safe, even like the boss, you know, because even, you know, even the little kids or the children are not safe, just because it's such an on like a weird environment of just poverty and just, you know, drugs and all that shit. So I think that's also like an I guess a point to that, you know, when it comes to the level that's that low, where it's, you know, it's still, I guess, drugs and like that type of underworld, but with no power really, or where the connections are very low level, that a boss like that, I guess, will get murdered in such a simple way, I guess. Because I mean, I understand it's his son, so why would he have security or anything with his son? But at the same time, you know, it's very, very easy to get rid of him. And it takes that, you know, low level thing, I think.
Yeah. I mean, well, he's not high status. He has
Mhm.
like a garage full of cars. And you see throughout the movie that Tony is vying for his father's approval, where he
Right.
steals, like, what was it, a Lamborghini or something?
Yeah,
Because
Ferrari, I
yeah.
think,
a
yeah.
couple pulls up outside an ATM and just like leaves the door unlocked and the keys in the car, and then they start arguing, and he takes it right over, and his dad is not appreciative of it all whatsoever. He throws a wrench at him or something.
Yeah.
And you have that whole scene, and then later on, his father is still sweating the mother of his youngest son, taking him to court and causing a problem and getting custody of even though she's a prostitute, she's a
Prostitute,
total
right.
mess.
Like, what is
Like,
Copenhagen's laws like, dog? Like, couldn't you get your child from a sex worker who works at a brothel? Like,
They're very progressive. They're
Yeah.
very
I'm
progressive
just saying,
over there.
maybe it is a difference in Copenhagen or whatever, but I feel like a lot of courts would lean towards him. But maybe she has so much because he's such a criminal himself. Like maybe he just has so much shit on him that it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, right, dog. Like the moment you try to bring that up, I'm going to bring up all the shit about
Yeah.
you, and you're not about to. Yeah, so it could have been one of those deals, one of those type of situations. But I mean, it's on him. Like, you know what I mean? Like you had a kid with this prostitute with giant fake breasts who works daily, clearly daily at this brothel. What did he expect? Like, what did he expect? Did he expect I don't know what he expected. I mean, look at his hair. I mean, the Duke's hair. I mean,
It's
he has
great.
like Lego Man hair. You
It
know,
looks like licorice. You know, it's so good. As far as I'm aware, prostitution is at least decriminalized in Denmark. So
right.
it's not it's not as spicy, I guess, as it
Right.
would
It's a
be
9
in
to 5.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it
we
could
know that
be.
they're not that far. They're not that far from Amsterdam either, where the red light district is. So,
Right.
like, you know, like
They-
I'm sure that like even if it's legalized, I feel like the stigma would be, well, this environment safe for the child type of deal. But again, the Duke is such a shady greaseball. Like, I'm pretty sure like his baby's mother has so much dirt on him that I don't think he would step foot in a court to try and get his son or get custody.
Right.
But he would hire his fuck up son to kill her. So
Yeah. So what is? Can we just briefly recap? So Kurt the cunt and Tony leave the celebratory party that's happening at like a bar that his father has connections at or whatever, and Kurt the cunt starts beating the shit out of one of the female characters. Do either of you guys remember whom off the top of your head? They're trying to stage a break-in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So they go back to his house, right? Yeah, they go back to Kurt's house,
Yeah.
and to fuck up his stuff, right? He's like, we're just gonna break my TV and all this shit. And there's a woman there, that he was like, what are you doing here? Like he didn't think anyone was gonna be there, so immediately he knocks her out, and he's like, he's gonna like kill her, and then that's when Tony's like, I'm out of here. Like what you didn't say anything about killing this chick, and he leaves Kurt, and I think that's when he goes back to the bar, right?
Yeah.
And his father's there. But
for the cunt.
what we skipped over what happened and why he left with Kurt, because you remember Tony's best friend who works for his father is getting married, and Tony's father looks at him as more of a son than he does Tony. So there's this big like she gives this toast, like, you know, like, and tells him how much of it he loves him and looks at him as a son, and he's like, you're more of a son than my fuck up son. Like, he says that in front of everybody, right?
And he's taking jabs at him during the
taking
speech.
jabs
He's
at
like,
him.
I'm just kidding, but really, he's
So
hard
he, like
time.
his father's shitting on him in front of everybody and saying like, you're more of a son to me than my son, who's a fuck up.
Yeah.
And then the mother of his child brings the baby there. Not only that, the baby's there. There's strippers there because this is a post-wedding celebration, right?
Oh yeah.
So the strippers there, the baby's there. People are getting drunk, and so she leaves the child in like the it's on the floor in its car seat, and she's like off doing drugs with the wife of his best friend in the back. So like Tony kind of like comes like gets it in his head like, what are you doing with the baby? Like, why is the baby here? He picks the baby up. He goes back there and sees her, and she's just like calling him a fucking loser. And, at that point, Tony like snaps and chokes the shit out of her, right? He's like choking the fuck out of her. So much so that his best friend has to knock him out. You know what I mean? Like literally knock him out because he was going to kill her. So he's outside post being knocked out after choking the mother of his child. And that's when Kirk comes up to him because Kirk's there. And he's like, yo, we got to figure out this whole thing. And he doesn't know. And this is another thing. Sorry to take over the wrap up.
No, this is good.
But he doesn't know. Tony doesn't know that the guys that Kurt owes is actually his father. Like he says it's like I think he says it's like some Muslims, or I think he says something like that, right? Like he says it's like he's got these drugs that he's supposed to have bought or whatever. He owes money, right?
Well, he doesn't say Muslims. He uses a different.
Right. I think he says Packies or something. I don't know. Whatever they say. What is he? Oh, sand in bombs, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So he says that, right? And like he doesn't know that it's his father. So this all comes together post this like celebration when he's outside sitting there, and Kirk comes back up to him like, yo, you gotta come with me right now. Because we got to convince, you know, the people I owe money to, he doesn't know it's his dad, that like, you know, these people are still after me. Like, and they're going to, let's go fuck my house up. And that's the reason they go back to the house. And that's what happens when he gets there and that girl is there, and then he leaves. But when he comes back, after he says "fuck you, Kirk," I'm not killing this chick. He goes back to the bar, and that's when he talks with his father. And his father asks him where Kirk is at, where he's at, and they take a ride. And that's when it's revealed to Tony that, like, yeah, he owes him money. Like, you know what I mean? And at that point, I feel like the stakes kind of change again. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's more like now it feels like Tony he literally tells him, like, I think his father tells him he has the debt now. Like, it's your debt now.
Yeah.
Which is
because they can find
right.
He keeps asking him where is he, and he says, "I don't know."
At that point,
when
you call your dad's bluff, I'll be like, "Fuck you, dad!" Like, okay, well, it's my debt. What are you gonna do? Like, you know what I mean? At that point, but Tony's not really, operating on that kind of level to call his father's bluff. So yeah, and take back over, Jay.
Well, everything from there goes to Tony trying to appease his father and saying, "Oh yeah, I can kill the mother of your other son. Yeah, that's no problem at all. Let's do it now. Let's go over there now." And so he gets driven over, and then he winds up getting cold feet. He doesn't do it. He seems to have a soft spot for women and children, whereas everybody else around him absolutely does not even an ounce. And it makes him look like a good guy by comparison.
He's like Tony Montana. No women and no kids.
Yeah. And so everything winds up boiling to that moment of whether or not he's going to do that. He can't muster up the courage to do it. He has to go back to his father, and that is where this eruption happens of the Duke spitting in his face, telling him he's worthless, he's embarrassed of him, he can't even do one simple thing that everybody does. And that sends Tony over the top. And so we go full circle with the conversation that happens in the jail cell before the movie really begins. Is, okay, his moment of pushing back and establishing himself as somebody you don't fuck with is going to be killing his own father, which fits perfectly for this fuck up character. Is the one thing he does that pushes back is, he's going to kill his own dad. Whether or not his father deserves it, clearly he does. He's still his dad. He's spitting his face. Look, terrible dad, one of the worst dads ever in a movie. But what a way to do it.
I mean, remember, and another important moment, or not even a moment really, I guess, an important aspect of this movie and of Tony as a character is when he discovers that his mom's dead when he gets out of jail. And like he goes, because remember, he goes to the apartment, buzzes the buzzer to his mom's building, but another woman answers, and he's asking for his mother, and that's when he finds out she died. And he's like, well, when did she die? And it was like over a year or maybe more. Like it's been a while. She's been dead a while. And when Tony talks to the Duke about it, he's like, yeah, your mother died, and he's like shits on his mother. Like, she was awful. She was a stupid bitch, just like the mother of my other son. Like, he's like, at every moment that he takes a dig at Tony, he also make sure that he takes a dig at his mother too, like multiple times, which also sort of fuels sort of that fire within Tony, probably when he's pushed over the edge, because you could see it every time he does it. Like, it happens a couple times where he says something about his mother, and you kind of look at Tony's face. They hold on Tony's face when he's listening to his dad talk about his dead mom, and you can tell like it hurts and it stings, and he doesn't like that he's fucking saying this about his mother. So yeah, I feel like all of the slights are just like, it's just one steady, like, fuck you until he's tired of it, right? He's tired of it. He's like, okay, I may be a loser, I may be, a fuck up, but you can only push me so far. And I feel like there's just little subtle things that is easy to miss about this movie that are like really cool details. But yeah, sorry.
Where does Pusher 2 for you guys stack up in terms of the trilogy? Because Hans, it sounded like this is the best one in your opinion of the three.
Yeah, that's the one that I like the most, I think. I would even go 2, 3, 1. 2, 3.
Really? You think so?
No, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, I think.
Yeah. 2, 1, 3. Rest in peace to Nate Dogg. Yeah, definitely 2, 1, 3 for me.
Well, I popped 3 into the Blu-ray player not long after we did our last show on Pusher. And my memory of 3 was that I liked it enough, but it wasn't a favorite of mine. And I hadn't really gone back to it since. I maybe watched it one other time, aside from the first time I watched it back in 2012 or 2011, because from my memory anyway, not a whole lot of action happens in the movie. It's a much more subdued film compared to the first Pusher movies. But watching it this time, I got a real kick out of having the Milo character be center stage and just navigating his domestic life with his daughter and then these side deals, and he's trying to stay sober, and he's also an aspirational chef, but he keeps giving everybody food poisoning.
Yeah.
I just found it so funny. And the actor whose name I'm going to butcher, even though I've said it like 5 times on these last couple of episodes, Zlatko Buric. Yeah, he's terrific. He's so fantastic, and I'm glad he's popped up in other movies since, and now he's more known for Triangle of Sadness or movies like that. But he's so good in this film, and I enjoyed his character absolutely. The transformation where you see him, and I didn't remember him looking so young in Pusher, but obviously now with time you get a little older and it's like, oh yeah, these guys are all pretty young here. They're all in like their mid-late 20s. Seeing him young in Pusher, and then just kind of like droopy dog, weighed down by life, tired, trying not to smoke heroin at any turn. In Pusher 3, it was such like a nice evolution, I think, of that character, and giving him like, oh, he might be honestly the least sociopathic of the 3 protagonists we're given in the film series. Maybe. I think there's an argument to be made for that.
I do like in the third movie, I do like the Albanians. I think that I think the Albanians are an interesting addition to the Pusher movie, the Pusher world, because Milo really doesn't have, you don't see until you get to that movie, you don't really see sort of like the people that Milo deals with in terms of like he's making deals. You know, you see people come to him, like low level dealers coming to him, right? But this is like another kind of like, I guess if you want to call them an organization, you know, I don't really know how organized these Albanians are, but they seem to have some level of organization, because I mean they're bringing in like, you know, trucks full of like ecstasy pills and all kind of other shit, you know. But the fact that you get to see him under pressure, right, and him trying to figure out, and then even him having to sort of default to them when he fucks up himself until he loses it, and then he has to like fucking kill the Albanian dude. I think Pusher 3 is underrated. I do think it is very underrated. And not to mention like the scene with not to just completely jump all the way into Pusher 3, but the scene where they dispose of the body is kind of like probably my favorite scene of all 3 movies though. Like, you know, like I think to me, like it's not my favorite movie. I'm with Hans. I think two's my favorite movie overall in totality, but I do think that Pusher 3 has one of my favorite scenes in the whole series. And that is that scene where they're getting rid of the body at Milo's.
It's such a jump. It's such a jump too, because the whole movie, I would say, is the slowest one of the 3, and by that I mean it's a build up, right? So not a lot happens from the start, and the story is just building little by little with him interacting with different people, and like, you know, talking to his daughter's boyfriend, convincing him or forcing him to only take drugs from him because he's also a drug dealer, and then he has to haggle with his daughter because she wants more money. So like all of those little things that happen, but you waiting for that moment. You're waiting for okay, so when does the violence start? When do we see Milo as like a threat? You know, because throughout the whole movie, I think he's just like a very wholesome Greek dad is what I thought. I don't know why I got Greek from him. I guess his face.
He's kind of tan, I guess.
Yeah, but I was thinking, oh, he's just kind of taking care of everyone. and he, he gets cake for the girl that's being human trafficked because it's her birthday. So like he's carrying with everyone on his own kind of gremlin, because that's kind of what he looks like, gremlin kind of way. And I'm there's one thing that I'm very upset about though, that I wish we had seen him with David Beckham 2005 haircut, as he was said in that scene, because I don't know, him with a blonde faux hawk, I think would have been great.
Did that inspire your wardrobe for this evening, Hans?
No, that's a different team. That's not even the same team.
Look,
No,
we don't
no.
know. We don't know about soccer over here.
Soccer,
Okay, we're American.
yeah. Yeah, but I think the best decision that Refn could have done with this trilogy is the characters that he picked to lead his movies. Because the first one, he's not really that well known as a director, so he's like his introduction or whatever. His style maybe is not set completely, but you get a very interesting Frank character, and he drives that first movie. And okay, so it makes sense that for a first attempt you would do that for the main character. But then the decision of using two side characters that you don't really see that much in that first movie, and two vastly different characters too, because one of them is a complete fuck up and the other one seems to be in control most of the time until the, what are they, Armenians, what are they, Armenians show up.
The Albanians.
Albanians.
Yeah.
Albanians show up. But even then, I think once he finds out and that they fucked him with the candy instead of ecstasy, because
Okay.
that's the
So
thing.
we got to
You know,
set
Joe.
that up real quick.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Milo, even though he's trying to remain sober, he is still a drug dealer at the end of the day, and he has this recurring deal with these Albanians where he's supposed to go get heroin. They don't have heroin though. What they've got for him is 10,000 ecstasy pills. And then it later on turns out through this deal with this other character, Muhammad, who we talked about him a little bit on the last show we did on Pusher. His character was supposed to be set up for Pusher 4. And then don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure the actor got arrested during shooting of this, which is why you don't see what happens to him after he gets locked up in the freezer and he's just not dealt with. I'm fairly confident that's what happened. And so Pusher 4 is just a non-existent thing. But what happens before that is he gives the pills to Muhammad to go distribute and get the money and come back. Well,
'Cause he
Muhammad
doesn't have
never comes
connection-
back.
He doesn't have connections to sell
Ecstasy. Yeah,
ecstasy. Only heroin, right?
That's
what he
right.
sells?
Yep.
Yeah.
And as he's bartering, like, okay, come back in an hour, he's already fed like two of his guys who are shitting themselves and puking. They're wretched over, it's just miserable with food poisoning from Milo's cooking. And this is all while he's setting up his daughter, her 25th birthday party, even though she looks like she's about 47 years old. She's the oldest looking 25-year-old I've ever seen on film.
Hard life in Copenhagen, man.
Yeah, truly. And her boyfriend, they like cast the perfect loser looking guy. Just his face is just so stupid looking. And when Milo goes to check in with like some of his guys, he sees the boyfriend there, and that's how he learns, oh, he's also dealing. And so he tries to set up this arrangement. Oh, you're only going to buy from me. And, as it was recapped earlier, the daughter wants in on that, and she wants a lowered price, da-da-da-da-da. Meanwhile, as the 25th birthday party is unfolding over at Milo's restaurant or whatever the hell it is, his side corner place, we have the Albanians come back and they bring a trafficked girl with them who seems pretty young, like late teens. Yes.
No,
What's up, Hans?
you jumped a
Yeah.
part. So before we get to the trafficking, he has to go back because Mohammed's supposed to come back in an hour.
That's right.
But it's been 4 hours and he doesn't. So he has to go back to the Albanians to ask for more time, and he gives them his watch as guarantee, and he says, "Oh, it's $70,000," but the Albanian is like, "Well, this is 5,000 for me." And then he said, "Oh, they convince him to allow them to use his bar to make a deal or something like that." Is what they don't really tell him what it is, and then they show up with like I guess the whole point of the thing is that she was underage, right? Like a sex traffic victim that
Yeah.
then they're trying to sell to a what do
They're,
you
try-
call
they're trying to sell it to the Duke's wife because she apparently that's the
Yeah,
woman.
oh
I thought that was the
shit.
same actress.
Yeah, it's the
Yes.
Duke's wife because she obviously she runs that brothel. So apparently, this is how she procures some women, but she ends up having an issue with it anyways, and she doesn't go through with it. But what is interesting is because Milo fucked up with the ecstasy, right, and didn't get it back, the Albanians are like basically, oh well, you work for us now.
Mhm.
Like we'll cut you some slack, but you basically work for us now. And Milos doesn't like that clearly. So like
Yeah.
when they show up, the fucking Albanian dude's like bossing them around, make us some food.
Yeah.
So and Milo
Yeah.
fucking, like he's just basically like he runs the shit, and you're just watching Milo get pissed and more pissed because he's not used to being told what the fuck to do, especially in his spot. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting like aspect to sort of like that whole scene where you're just watching Milo sort of be demeaned, like you're not used to seeing that character be told what to do, especially again inside his shop. Like there, he's like, like it's mine now. It's basically it's ours. It's the Albanians now. Um, I did like that. I did like that. We got to see a lot of Milo that because every time he comes in, and I don't know about it, maybe you guys feel differently, but I feel like every time he appeared in the first two films, it was like a welcome like moment. I was like every time
Oh
he
yeah.
popped up, I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was good to see a whole movie where you got to see more of him. But like you were saying, Jay, what's interesting is when you think about it, the reason that there's not a lot of like violence is like he's on some positive shit. Like at the opening of the movie, he's like, first, I'm trying to be clean and I'm trying to celebrate my daughter's 25th birthday. I'm planning this birthday party. His whole world is like staying, not doing drugs, and
Yeah.
cooking food for his, and making sure his daughter gets everything that she wants because he's fucking spoils her. And like that's the type of positivity he's on. Meanwhile, he's running this like illicit drug business in the background. But his priorities is all like really good, like you know what I mean. It's like really clean cut, like in
Yeah.
terms of like
Mhm.
what his priorities are at the start of the film. So it makes perfect sense for it to be one of those movies that builds to the eventual like violence because it's like when it starts he's like totally not even on that, plus he's way older now,
Mhm.
like so he's tired, you know what I'm saying, he's probably a lot more patient, and he's just really his goals are like to be just to be a good guy even though he's not a good guy, but he kind of is a good guy.
Yeah, completely. I mean, in the first two movies, even though he's a kind of jokey, funny character, he's this sort of like looming shadow of, oh, you don't want to piss this guy off. You don't want to get on his bad side. Something violent is going to happen if this turns the wrong way. And it doesn't go that way in Pusher 2. And we never get to see that in the first Pusher movie. There's an attempt made at cutting off Frank's hands that winds up going awry and he gets out of there. So you never really see what Milo's capable of. And this time around, like you said, we're meeting him 10 years later. He's a bit slower. He's got the closest thing to like a functional domestic life. And it seems like everybody just has a dead wife in these movies. Everybody's wife or girlfriend is either dead or a prostitute or a fuck up of some kind. So they're probably like the most decent people involved. And so, you have this whole thing of him just trying to navigate and do the right thing and handle these situations. And like the amount of disrespect that's levied at him during the third act by these Albanians is off the charts. And the fact he doesn't blow his cool sooner, I think, does indicate, okay, well, his age is maybe slowing him down here. And eventually, when he does blow the top off and kills the pimp and then the Albanian who's working with him, he's going to call in a favor from Radovan, who we also meet and is a bit older now and has started his own restaurant. He's actually made good for himself as like the most sociopathic character.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems like the worse you are or the worse you seem in like the first movie, the better off you wind up being and more wholesome and nice. So
Uh,
he's recruited ultimately to help out Milo.
Also, the thing that gets him to break is when the pimp abuses the girl too. Because before that, he's just kind of allowing it to happen, the mistreatment of this girl. But
And he
then,
chases after her when she tries to make an initial escape the first
Yeah,
time.
because he food poisons the guy too. I think he has to go shit desperately, and then the girl just runs out.
Yeah.
Then Milo runs after her, stopping him from running away. But then the pimp goes a little overboard and then grabs a mug. No, not a mug. Like he's boiling water to make coffee for
Yeah,
the
he's burning
Albanians.
her hand.
Yeah, so he burns her hand with the boiling water. And then you just see Milo go out and then come back with a fucking hammer and then just hit him in the head with a hammer and they just start saying and that's the first time that you actually see him as like, oh shit. Oh, so this is what he's capable of because he doesn't show that at all. Uh uh like Ryan here said, he's trying to keep it together. You know, he's trying to live a different life, and then what takes him over the line is this guy abusing this innocent girl, physically, and that's when he turns.
And it tracks because you see his relationship with his daughter, and
Mhm.
the whole movie is about him trying to, he's a sucker for his daughter, right? Like his daughter is his whole world, and you kind of get the sense that
Spoiled,
like,
yeah.
yeah, you kind of get the sense that that girl is sort of like he sees his own daughter in her, so it's kind of like sets him off even more. He's already pissed because these Albanians are like fucking bossing him around and shit.
Yeah.
But like, but it's also really funny because he's a funny guy. Like he's funny in all the movies, right? But one of the funny parts is actually Radovan shows his sense of humor is when he finally convinces him to come help him, and he takes him back to his restaurant, and they come across the dead bodies, and like he sees the first guy, and he's like, "Who's that?" And then I think fucking Milo's like a Polak, and then they walk
Oh
into
yeah.
the other room, and he's like, he sees the other guy, and he's like, "And who's that then?" And he's like, "That's an Albanian." He's like, "That's okay." uh,
Yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say Radovan is reluctant to help Milo at first. He seems very content with his regular life. He's gotten out. He doesn't want anything to do with it, but he's good at violence. He's good at dealing
What
with human
we
people.
jumped something I just remembered. So
Yes.
Mohammed, going back to Mohammed, he disappears for 7 hours, I think it is, by the time that they get him. And Milos contacts this cop friend of his that's like what do you call it? Not a good cop. This bad cop that kidnaps Mohammed for him, like finds him and kidnaps him for him, and that's why he goes to Radaban because he needs help dealing with him and getting the truth out of him. But I think we jumped that point that he has what do you call it? Like a rogue cop
Yeah,
helping him
yeah.
track this
Sure.
Mohammed guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's got a connection within the police force who brings Muhammad to him. And he warns him, he says right up front, he's like, listen, if he goes missing, if anything bad happens, we're going to have to come after you. And Frank's like, all right, okay. Not Frank, sorry. Milos like, yeah, okay, cool, got it. So he's tied up in the kitchen, and Radovan is going to interrogate him using the threat of violence. And what we wind up finding out is that Milo's been had. The ecstasy pills are supposed to be candy. They're sweet tarts, I guess. I don't know. And meanwhile, Milo is also high on speed, heroin. He's all fucked up and dealing with this situation. And he has like a moment where he's just kind of like buzzy headed and he's starting to like fade a little bit while this is all happening. He has to excuse himself and he walks away. I thought the choice of doing that where his suddenly like his mindset is foggy and showing that was an interesting cutaway because it doesn't really play a significant part in anything that happens that's of consequence. I don't believe so anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's just like, oh yeah, the shit's getting to him.
Well, I do think one thing we didn't touch on was how Milo ends up finally like doing drugs
Mm.
because the whole movie, like he goes to multiple AA meetings, right? And this takes the whole movie takes place over the course of this day, this one day where it's his daughter's birthday, right? So he's like bouncing back and forth between sort of doing things that are business related in terms of like the drugs and shit, but also going to the party, right? And obviously no one can eat his food because it made everyone sick. So Milos decides to throw away all the food, right? And his daughter's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, no, no, this is bad. I got to throw it away. You
Yeah.
guys can't eat it. I'm gonna go get you some more food." So he goes to this Chinese restaurant and orders like a bunch of fried fish, right?
A really interesting restaurant, by the way. I noticed in the background they had like Whoppers for sale on the on the menu grids and everything else. It's very interesting. It was a Chinese restaurant, but they had burgers and all kinds of other
definitely.
shit.
So maybe they got a different kind of Chinese restaurant in Copenhagen that does that
Yeah.
kind of shit, maybe. But yeah, there's definitely
he orders 60 spring rolls.
yeah.
And
If
the
you
Chinese
know, he orders
guy-
the spring rolls, but they don't have spring rolls, so he ends up
Yeah.
getting the fish, right?
So he just got random fish. Yeah.
Yeah. So while he's waiting, Kirk the cunt
Yeah.
walks by the restaurant and sees Milo, and he comes in, and they have a little they catch up a little bit, and you get to see Kurt with hair, and that's when they make the joke, like the cunt with hair, right? And then before he leaves, he gives Milo some drugs, like, right? And he's like, and Milo doesn't, he's like, at first Milo like rebukes, like, no, I don't not, but he's like, no, 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 here you go, man, just take it. And Kirk leaves. So Milo's just sitting there, and you just see him. He's like stressing out about like the drug shit because he still hasn't heard back from Muhammad. He's still got his daughter's birthday going on simultaneously. He's stressed out, and he's just sitting there, and you just see him like his hand is over top of the drugs, and then he just gets up and goes into the bathroom. And that's when he finally is in the stall. He lights up and smokes the heroin, and it's like, oh fuck. At that point, it finally broke him. But it takes a minute. Like, that's for fairly decent way into the movie before that actually happens. But once he does get the drugs in him, you're right, Jay. Like, you can see he just continues to take more substances, and it's completely altering his whole mood, everything. Like,
it catches up with him, and he winds up in this situation where he is tied up and is torturing Muhammad over the candy pills. And technically he's in the wrong about it, but he should have been called and informed of that. Or, you can understand both perspectives here. And it just gets progressively messier and messier as a result of this. And Muhammad's locked in a fridge, in a little freezer. And then we don't know what the hell happens after that. He could be there today for all we know. We have no clue what happens to this character. We just have to assume, I guess he's dead. I don't know. He's forgotten about, dead. It's time to go home. The sun is out. Let's have our microwavable coffee and go to sleep.
I do think like I can't say his name. Is it Zalco, right? Zalco.
That sounds like a fake company in a Tim and Eric sketch. Zalco.
Zlatko, I think.
Zlatko Burek.
Zlatko Burek. I think Zlatko kind of, he has a very unique look. He looks like he would be like in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, kind of like he looks like one of those types.
Yes.
Like he has this weird look about him, but and I know this is a thing. We didn't mention this moment from Pusher 2, which kind of shows you everything you need to know about Milo, kind of in a weird way, is when the cunt flushes the drugs, right? And there's and he's like, okay, like, well, it's an accident, right? I don't have to pay for it. And they like, of course you do. Like, what, you still owe for the drugs? Like, but like he looks at him and he's like, the food's here. You guys are gonna sit down and eat. And it's kind of like he knows this is fucked up, but he's like, and that he knows that that's a funny thing to say. And he knows how absurd that is, but he doesn't give a fuck. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna sit down and eat? Yeah, I know you still owe me for these drugs, and I know you're completely fucked, but the food's here. Like, I thought that like that's such an important like part of like that character, and like how he's this he's almost like, you almost get the sense that like he's not really taking things seriously, but he is. Like, he's like the most unserious, serious person, and that kind of is what makes him kind of dangerous. Is that like, you're like, is he joking or is he serious? Like, like that menace is like always beneath the surface, even though he seems like a teddy bear. And that's a hard thing to pull off. I think that's a hard thing for, like, you have to kind of like embody that or it won't work. Because I've seen a lot of movies where they try to do that, where they're like, oh, this guy is just, don't piss him off. You won't like him when he's mad, and then it's like, it's kind of like, but with him, it's like so second nature. That when he does blow his top at the end and he finally does, we do get to see him kill people. It is not like very it's not at all surprising, and he still seems like the same guy who loves his daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
you.
think that's the biggest strength in his performance is being able to pull off both of those seamlessly. You never question it. You never think for a second this isn't the same guy or these two elements can't coalesce with one another.
Right.
Sorry to cut you off, Hans.
Yeah, no, like the thing with his performance is that even though at points it seems like he's kind of a comedic relief character, right? Especially in the with his cameos on the other two movies. He's kind of a an unserious. Is this guy like really dangerous or is he just bluffing type of thing? So he has that in him, but I think his performance is so good by making him seem uh I don't know if unsettled is the right word or like you know that at any point he could break and be that character, and then when it happens you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see it. You know, it's not unbelievable the fact that he, you know, can go Art the Clown on that guy and not seem out of place. You know, just kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, it makes sense that he's, you know, making sausages out of this guy's guts or whatever the fuck
Oh
they're
yeah,
doing.
they were
And it
just
was
shoving the intestines down the
yeah.
sink drain, and it was
No, no, it was
very.
like a food. What is it? A food compactor, whatever those things are called. The food process. No, not a processor. What is it called? The garbage disposal thing,
Yeah,
Mm.
right?
garbage disposal. Yeah, yeah, garbage disposal. Yeah. It's funny. I just now pictured like Terrifier 4 with like Zlatko Burick as as art. Oh shit, that would be
He's
great.
been typecast in other movies, including the Pusher remake. He plays Milo again. But I remember last seeing him in the very 4 out of 10, and I should have known better than to watch it. But it was, it was something to put on toward the end of the year. Wolves with George Clooney and Brad Pitt. He plays another
Um,
Eastern
he's in
European
that.
mob boss in that. Yes.
Oh wow, now I need to watch it now. See, I have it, and I still haven't watched it. You know why I didn't watch it? Because it's spelled wolves, but it's WOLFS.
Yeah, I thought they were being clever with
That's how they're
that.
being. I was like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. Yeah, okay, fuck you guys. So I
And
didn't
it's,
watch it.
I think there must have been some inspiration from Pusher there because when you
Mhm.
first meet his character, who's like a crime boss, it's a big family party. And it's like the same setup, but far inferior film. He later pops up in Copenhagen Cowboy, Refn's 2023 Netflix series, along with the actor who played Radovan. And they're basically the same characters on that show, but not the same characters. And it's like a nice little, I think, companion piece. I was thinking about it recently after we started digging into these movies of what a Pusher 4 would look like in 2025 with gray haired Kim Bodnia. And we were taking a look at his recent work. And I guess he's like a big actor in Denmark or wherever the fuck, doing some of these. What was the TV show? Phoebe Bridger, whatever that bitch name.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
That
about.
looks.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Amazon
What
show.
is
Yeah.
what is that? What does Clooney look like Kim Bodnia here? Right? That's what kind of what he looks like now. Just like a swollen gray
I
man.
mean, they definitely they're definitely like him and Clooney are like of the same like phenotype. Like they have the same. They definitely are kind of similar guy, kind of. Yeah.
That's very flattering for Kim Bodnia and
Right,
very
cut from the
insulting for George
cut from
Clooney.
the same mold, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, this is an Apple TV movie.
it was.
Oh.
And I only watched it because I've been watching ER and I kind of miss that George Clooney, but there's nothing. There's
Isn't
nothing
it
good
isn't
about
it amazing how like Apple any movie that Apple does is like has virtually no like presence whatsoever. Like they have all the money in the world, right? Their
Mhm.
movies have the biggest. They get all whatever cast they want, right? They'll even
Yeah, they get
get
big,
good
big
directors.
actors and everything.
Every
Yeah, but
almost everyone has an iPhone or some sort of Apple product in their home, but their movies are virtually invisible. Like when they release them, like they don't give a shit. Like that new The Gorge, like no one's watching that. No one cares about that. I mean, it's Scott Derrickson, he sucks. So like like none of that, like but if they would have released that in the theater with another, like if it came out through even Screen Gems or Lionsgate or whatever, people would talk about it and know about it. But because it's an Apple movie, it just gets released and like just no one like the Will Smith Slave movie. Like no one, what you know what I mean? Like what? Like
what?
wolves? Like wolves? Like
Mhm.
no one's watching these Apple movies. They have no like imprint whatsoever. So I just thought that was interesting.
they have the same stink that Netflix movies have to me,
Mhm.
where it's just like it's gonna be the same thing. You know, they look the same. They have like the same
It's just that people don't
everything.
expect movies from Apple. Like people look at Apple and they're like, you guys make devices.
But then,
You know what I mean?
and this is something that I tweeted. I think it was yesterday or the day before. That it's like when you watch an Apple TV trailer, like it never looks like a real thing. Like it looks like those fake Tropic Thunder trailers at the beginning
Yes,
of the movie.
Right.
without fail,
Where
always a TV show or a movie within a TV show or movie. That is always the vibe.
Yeah, so even the posters, that poster from that movie I just mentioned, Ryan, it's
The Gorge. The
horrible.
Gorge.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
such a horrible, cheap looking
I
poster that
remember I
Mhm.
remember when that script was circulating before it got made. I think it was a black script, and like I started to try to read it, and like the first like few pages, like the character that uh Miles Teller plays is like he's like a sniper guy, but like he's like into poetry, and he's like doing like poetry classes, and I was like, man, fuck you, bro. I slammed my laptop and just walked away, never opened it again. So like it's not it's not like this is like the source. Like I don't know, man.
Do you like how their heads weren't even actually touching there? They just photoshopped their heads into
I'm
touching.
telling you, like, did they just AI that poster? Like, it's like that's the laziest poster. Like images.
well, they look like sci-fi channel posters. You know, it's like that amount of effort that's going to the design of this thing. It's like
That looks like an
which
example of something you could get off of Fiverr.com. Whenever someone's putting up their like fake display movie posters, you would see something like that, like
look
this.
look at that.
like
They're
look
not
at
even
this, dude.
they're not even blended in. Like
No, no.
How is this your promo? Like how
Where's
much
his arm?
we're there? It's both of
that's some
them.
transparency in all the shoulders right there. What's going on? Like what? And they,
it just yeah, it just looks
nothing
like
about
shit.
it. Like it doesn't look like right. It doesn't look, and you know they spent money on it. And that's the crazy part. It's like I've seen movies with no budgets that have way better everything. Like it's like the Match Day Lottery posters way like it looks like fucking
Oh, thank you.
Picasso in comparison to that shit. Like
Well, that was me being by myself at 3 a.m. and then ordering bags of ice and fish heads off
See,
of Uber Eats, and boom, we're in business.
that's what I'm saying. Like at least it's a real thing. It's an image, an actual image. Like what they just like copy pasted a bunch of fucking photos.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like Photoshop. It looks like MS Paint or some shit. Like it's very lazy, low effort.
You know, I think that's the big thing that differentiates posters from the 20th century and posters from the 21st century in terms of, okay, we don't really have any memorable posters. There's a handful of memorable posters from the 21st century. Is the 20th century, you had a lot of hand-drawn art, and people will try and do that today, and it still doesn't have like the same effect as what you would want. But a lot of posters back in the 20th century and also advertisements were just photographs, and then you would touch up the photographs or like put in another photograph, and it wouldn't be what you see in Photoshop where people like will redo shit from the ground up, and then they'll smooth a person's face, and then the lighting will be completely changed. You know, they just go with a concept, they photograph it, and then they make alterations from there. They're not going, okay, let's just have Miles Teller transparent, Anya Taylor-Joy transparent. We'll go on Shutterstock and find a gorge to put in the background, and that's obviously what they did here.
But I mean, if you're gonna go with that approach, like just go with the minimalist approach. Like find one memorable. There's probably not any memorable images in the movie. Find one memorable image or memorable object and make that the center of the poster. Like you know, it's like if you guys the fucking Skype box. If you just took a picture of the Skype box and put it, you know what I mean? Like you could have made that an image, like it because it's like it's a memorable kind of, you know what I mean, like thing in part of the movie. It's like I don't get why you would make that movie, then that would be the poster. Like those are the images that are like, okay, this is what we're going with. But you know,
well, the people over there, I don't think, and this probably isn't breaking new ground, they're not movie people first and foremost. They're tech people that have been brought over, and maybe they outsource a couple of people from the industry of today, but not like titans.
I've interacted with them. I've interacted with them very briefly, those Apple film people, and they're nice people because I was at Morehouse when they were screening the Will Smith movie, and Tyler Perry was there giving the Q&A, and I was just there. I was there because I was brought along with Tyrese.
Wait, Tyler Perry made is that the slave movie you mentioned
No, yeah,
earlier?
Tyler Perry had no involvement with the movie. He just
Oh,
hosted the Q&A at down there at Morehouse with Will Smith, and they screened the
okay.
movie for an audience, and then they had question Q&A after. So like I'm back there and I'm talking with the Apple people, and they're like super nice. Like all the people from the Apple film, they were like very excited, like nice people, but you did get that vibe. Like these are not movie people though. Like sure they work for Apple's movie to like whatever you want to call it, their movie division, but they were very much like they look like people who would work in the Apple store. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it really was like some interacting with them. I was like, oh yeah, like you don't want to have a movie here. Like if you have an option, like make sure they have the money, but it's just not gonna have people aren't gonna care.
Right.
Like you know what I mean? Like it's
I
not
completely forgot there was a Will Smith slave movie.
exactly.
Didn't they bury that right after he slapped Chris Rock? Was that right after that?
It was like, yeah, it was not that long after. Yeah. And it was interesting because fucking who was it? Antoine Fuqua was who directed that movie too. So it's like all these Apple movies have that like weird sort of like they get known directors, known actors, all that shit. They have real budgets, but the movies are just like you might as well just take whatever that 50 million was and set it on fire, or 100 million and set it on fire. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's what the equivalent is. Like, I know they didn't make no money off of it, but it's Apple. They don't care. Like, you know, it's like whatever.
Oh, is that Emancipation? Is that
Yeah,
the one?
Emancipation.
Ah,
I didn't actually watch the movie. Um,
just dirty,
I
dirty
was
Will
there, but I
Smith.
didn't watch it. Yeah, yeah. I was like,
Just-
I was in the parking lot talking with Ti and Tiny, like dead ass. Like we're just standing there waiting to go in the movie. But yeah, like fucking. I didn't watch the movie, but I went back in with when they were doing the Q&A. But those Apple people for sure, they seem like nice people, but they're just not movie people. They're just not.
Mhm. You know, the only two movies that come to mind that Apple produced that you could make an argument escape that are movies that downplayed the Apple element completely, which is Killers of the Flower Moon
Mhm.
and then Napoleon. But Napoleon was a flop. And actually, technically, Killers of the Flower Moon was a flop too, but it got award credentials. Napoleon, nobody wanted to touch that.
But see, Scorsese is the only person who's like, well, he's the only. I won't say he's the only person, but he's the only like type of filmmaker that has made one of those. Like he's did it with Netflix too, where like Scorsese is a big enough brand or director that like he can like force the movie into the public's consciousness, right? Like because he did it with that, he did it with The Irishman too. Like you know what I mean? Like where like people actually took those movies seriously more than they would in typically an Apple movie or a Netflix movie. Like he really did do that. So I feel like if you got like if you I think if Nolan did one of those movies, people would, you know, he's a big enough kind of name and people like him for some reason. Like that, like it would like trump the fucking fact that it's an Apple or a Netflix movie. But
Right.
I feel like if you don't have that kind of like clout, like no one's gonna give a fuck. And
Have they gotten any other like really big directors aside from Scorsese and I guess Ridley Scott? Like A list heavy hitter, 20th century, let's say
Well,
directors.
Joel Cohen did that Macbeth movie, right? Wasn't that the Apple?
The what movie?
Macbeth. He said Macbeth.
Macbeth. Oh, Macbeth.
with Denzel Washington.
With Denzel, yeah,
That
See,
was
again,
not,
but
I didn't
again,
enjoy
that should be a no brainer, right? That should be like a no
you
brainer. Like,
think.
but it's
Yeah.
because it's Apple. You know, it's like I just they
Yeah,
just
I'm looking at Wired magazine article of like the best Apple TV Plus movies, and The Gorge is the first, the first one they list, which I guess tells you everything you need to know about this list. But then you have this fake movie that's about the faking of the Apollo landing with Scarlett Johansson. Why is she doing Apple Plus movies? I don't know. Channing Tatum is in this too.
Oh,
Uh,
Blitz. That's the Steve McQueen movie. I didn't realize that was. Yeah, I did realize that's an Apple TV
okay.
movie. Yeah, I did. And that actually got some theater, a little bit of a theater run. But obviously, the reason no one's talking about it is because it's an Apple movie.
I had no idea that Steve McQueen even had a new movie out.
Exactly. It's Apple. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't really once it's an Apple, they just don't give a shit. Like they just don't. They make these movies and then they don't promote them, or they just kind of like expect you to. Like Billie Eilish has a movie. Like
Well, half of this list is just documentaries too, which just kind of tells you everything you need to know about their scripted stuff. Because look,
Mhm.
another documentary. This is what a Lily Gladstone movie before she did that Cleo Moon movie, I think.
yeah, she's
Another documentary, Napoleon,
Napoleon. Yeah,
New York Killers. I don't know
fingernails,
what this
whatever that
is.
is. Flora and Son.
Yeah, there's nothing here. There's
Hey, remember Sing Street? That charming indie about a kid in no.
from like 2013 that 7 people watched.
Another documentary. This
Coda, that's right. What? How could we forget the Best Picture winner from 2022? Coda.
Another
My
documentary.
They just paid. They just paid for that Oscar.
Yeah.
No one watched the Coda.
Well, who's talking about Coda in 2025? That's 3 years?
Who was
How would I
talking
know?
about it that year?
Nobody.
Nobody did. Coda winning is an enormous joke.
And look at this cast. So you got Julianne Moore, you got okay, maybe not just Smith. We got Sebastian Stan and John Lithgow. That's a pretty good cast for. Have
Look
you
at
heard anything about
App-
Sharper?
Apple has deep pockets. They can get all of these, but again, like I just don't understand why they are even doing this, because they clearly do not care about these movies. Like they just like they don't care. So it's not if they care more about, I guess, making iPhones and cool, whatever. But like the movies, they just have no cultural imprint whatsoever. And it's just strange given that Apple is so ubiquitous, like everywhere. I think I have like a million Apple devices. Like I fucking got a fucking iWatch on right now. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like it's everywhere, but like their movie, I should be getting like a fucking The Gorge out now, fucking notification on my stupid watch on my phone. Like, you know what I mean? But you don't like
No, the only time I ever see any sort of Apple promotion, it'll be when I log onto my Amazon Fire Stick and it'll tell me, oh, there's a movie out, or hey, we're bringing Ted Lasso back. It'll be something along those lines. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you don't really get any attention for advertising those movies outside of what you're already operating on, which sucks because people already have a pretty disposable low opinion of anything that winds up on streaming. And look, maybe all those movies are great, but we'd never know about it. And I do think a big part of what a movie leaves as an impression on somebody is the marketing campaign. There are so many great big blockbuster movies from 20 years ago, from 10 years ago, where the marketing around it plays a part in how you perceive the movie and ultimately will impact your enjoyment of the movie one way or another. And we don't really have that.
I'm not even someone who cares about like a movie's marketing necessarily, but when you're making the types of movies that they make, right, you're playing that game. Like you're making these giant movies so that everyone can see them. Like you're not making something that's counter to what you are the system. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, so it makes absolutely no sense why you would invest time, money, productions into these things if there's just like no effort to market them in any way. Like it still makes no sense to me. It must be money laundering or something. I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is. I think most films, to be fair, are money laundering. Like we kind of touched on that a little bit when we were talking about how Pusher was made. Yeah. like most films have a little bit of that in them. You know what I'm saying? It's a little shady. It's a little, like you're usually getting money from like, suspect sources and shit. So
of course.
So yeah, I mean, but on that level, it's just like it doesn't make any sense that they're making these movies. You're doing movies with Brad Pitt and George Clooney, like starring together, and like they just put them out, and then no one ever sees or talks about them. It's just like, oh yeah, it's there. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, best case scenario, this is where Refn takes his third series and pawns
Apple
it off, and
TV.
yeah, he gets a budget from Apple TV
and
for another show
he will
that will
take
not be a
2 million off
success.
the budget.
Yeah.
2 million
Wait,
is
so
going
Apple TV is pretty much just Ted Lasso, right? Like that's the one
Isn't
thing.
Sev-
And
Isn't
they
Severance?
ended it after.
Oh,
Yes,
right.
it is also Severance too. Severance season 2 just started recently. I have no idea if it's good or not. I
People actually watch those
enjoyed
two shows, though. I know
season
that
1.
people watch Severance and
Yeah.
Ted Lasso. So
Well,
they do.
They
watch.
ended Ted Lasso after 3 seasons and then realized, oh, nobody's watching anything else on here. So we're going to do a reboot, and it's going to be its own like new trilogy of seasons or something, because people figured this out quick. I was browsing the Blu-ray.com forums or something, and somebody was like, hey, they renamed Ted Lasso the complete series Ted Lasso something edition. And people were like, oh, well, maybe they're bringing it back for season 4 where it's going to take place here instead of here. Naturally, that seems to be what's happening. By the way, I just started watching Derek, like 20 years too late, the Ricky Gervais show where he's playing like a retarded guy. And then Brett Goldstein comes up on that show. How did this guy wind up why do people give a shit about what Brett Goldstein has to do
Why are you
or say or
watching-
think about?
Why are you watching Derek in 2025?
I don't know. Listen, it's February. There's nothing on TV, Hans. There's nothing going on. What else am I going to watch? I can't go to the theater. There's nothing playing at the theater.
You don't want to watch Companion? No, I'm just saying that because I just watched that shit.
How was that? I will never watch it. So spoil away.
Just watch Black Eyed Susan. It's the better version.
I did watch that actually,
Yeah.
based off of your review. I was
Yeah.
like, I was already getting like, is there like an undercurrent of something else he might be hinting at here?
Yeah,
And then he really just like overtly says it at the end. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
That's something. I enjoyed that because it was so low budget and so small scale, but they did well based within that like confine of what they had for limitations. That was an interesting one.
Yeah. Scooter I met Scooter McRae, and he actually, the first time I met dude, he handed me a flask. He was just like, "You want to drink some of this?" And he was just like drinking. Coolest dude ever. He's been making like fucking just underground movies forever. I don't know if you've seen like Shatter Dead or 16 Tongues, but like he started making these movies on video, and they're like, and now he's like making movies on film now. It's weird. Yeah, like if you, I don't know, man, it's weird because I watched Companion and I was like, you know what, this is very watchable. Like it's not boring, but it's just not
It's whatever, yeah.
right. It's just not. It's what all these movies are, you know, that come out of the sort of machine of Hollywood, which is like, and there's like too much like surface level feminist bullshit in there. You know what I mean? Where it's like it's not really. And I mean, to be fair, the same thing was in Barbarian, right?
Mhm.
Like, which Zach Krieger was apparently supposed to direct Companion at first. That's why
I didn't
Zach
know that.
Krieger and Roy Lee are the producers of Companion, because at one point I guess he was attached, but then the screenwriter decided he was going to direct it. But it has that kind of thing where it's just like, oh yeah, okay, like men are shitty. Okay. That's the thesis, I guess.
That's it?
Right?
That's- well-
like, you know, like it tries to explore those things. It tries to explore, like, I guess, codependent relationships and stuff like that. Like, but it's so like meaningless. It's so like superficial. Like it's so like, you know, like it doesn't
Okay.
get at, like, Black Eyed Susan is like, it actually is brave enough to like explore
Jewishness.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's and I think Scooter is Jewish, but I think, or is he? Maybe not. Maybe he's not. I think he is. His last name is McRae, though. Somebody told me he was Jewish. I should ask him. Hey, Scooter, you Jewish?
Go to his Wikipedia. Could you go to early life on Wikipedia? Maybe we can find this out.
But yeah, that part in the movie was definitely an interesting aspect of the movie. I was like, what? But people should see Black Eyed Susan. It is the better version of Companion. Even though I do think that Sophie Thatcher was good in the movie. I mean, I guess she wasn't bad, but I mean, it's not like the movie was. She did what she could. I
Mhm.
guess. I hate.
Scooter's from Brooklyn, so
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there. That settles that. um, yeah, I didn't watch Companion. I watched Bridget Jones 4. That was a good time. I actually really enjoyed that. That was on Peacock. And then there's a new Takeshi Kitano movie
Yeah, I
that
have
was
that. I
out.
have that. Was
okay, all right. I thought I was gonna have to have some type of intervention or something because first Derek and now Bridget Jones there. It's like, are you okay?
Well,
Are you
listen, I
going
watched
through
the first three Bridget Jones movies back in like October and told nobody. So this is why.
Is this
Bridget
what
Jones
meme
4.
coins are doing to you? Are you just enjoying Ricky Gervais in 2025 all of a sudden? I never thought you liked them.
I like Ricky. I enjoy Ricky. I thought all of his shows with Stephen Merchant were good. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen Afterlife. Somebody said, "Oh, hey, when we were shooting Omega Fish Corp, I sent a little preview to somebody in the cast, and he was like, "Oh man, this looks exactly like Afterlife." And then I turned on Afterlife, and I was like, "Afterlife looks fucking boring. Let's get rid of all of this. Let's just dump this out right now. We're not going to release this ever."
so
Um,
so was the Broken Rage movie good? I mean, I like Takashi beat Takashi. So I mean, but I have it. I just haven't watched it yet.
I mean, it's listen, it kind of has a bit of the old man director syndrome to it,
Yeah.
but the movie is it's I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it or to say if it's good or bad because I think some people watch it and think, well, this is pretty inept. What the hell was the point of this? But if you are into Takeshi Kitano and his filmography and his career, it's like a very overt metaphor for what his career has been.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Some of the comedy doesn't work. Some of the comedy really worked. I laughed quite a few times.
Did you
in
watch
it.
Kubi?
Is that the one that he did a year or two ago?
Yeah, it's
where he's
the
a
one
gay
that it was. It
samurai?
was the last one before this one. Yeah, yeah.
No, no, no. I haven't made time to watch that yet. I saw it
Yeah,
was like
I have
3
again.
hours.
Yeah, it's one of those two. It's like I have the I guess I'm not gonna watch the Brutalists. Maybe I will. I don't know. I just don't. I just don't want to sit through it. Like I just don't want to do it. Like I
Well,
just,
it's funny you mention it. I was just going to say, Hans, the Brutalist is available at the Costa Rican Theater
Oh,
as of today. So
Mhm.
we'll have to get
yeah.
DC back to talk about that and just give you a repeat.
Didn't you
of
like
his
Vox
episode.
Lux though, Lowers?
I loved it. Yeah, I think it's a terrific movie. I think it's
Look at
really
Hans's
good.
face, like
No, that's one of the rare movies episodes I think where we are completely disaligned on what the deal with the movie is. Hans will change his tune in 5 years, I guarantee.
Yeah. Once I forget what I said,
Yeah.
then I'll be like, oh, you know what? It's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I downloaded it already. I got the Brutalist on my hard drive as we speak right now. It's just the running. I thought I might have time to see the three movies today, but I realized that's like 3 hours, 4 hours, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
hmm
and it's got a fucking intermission. I'm like,
Yep.
mm,
yeah. You haven't seen it, right?
yeah, huh? I have. I thought of look. I went to the movies and I was like, I looked at it and then I was just like, no. And then I went and saw a movie with a regular runtime, and then like I have a copy of it, and I'm just like, I'm gonna probably watch it eventually, but I just cannot bring myself to sit down for that long and watch this Brady Corbet, however you say his fucking name, fat piece of shit, fucking movie.
It's,
Like
yeah.
I just can't do it. Like I can't bring myself to. And then like I think was it DC that was complaining about like there's like it's brutalist, but like they don't understand what brutalist architecture is because it's like just straight buildings, and like the whole point is that like you can because it's made of concrete, you could do all these crazy designs, and like all the fucking shitty builds in the movie is just like straight up just a box, like a regular ass building.
Well, he said that the one shot he likes is when one building kind of looks like that. So the one shot he liked throughout the whole movie is just when it gets, I guess,
Oh my God.
brutalism-ish.
And Brady Corbet,
Uh,
wasn't he like in 13? I think he was in 13.
Yeah,
right?
he was in 13. He
Yeah.
did Funny Games America. He
Yes.
did Silent
Wow.
Killer.
He looks rough, bro.
Yeah, there needs to be an intervention. I don't know what's going on with him. Food clearly, But who knows what the reason for him plumping up so rapidly is. But also, he's doing like I'm the fat guy with long hair and a beard thing too, which is not good at all. It really doesn't help his situation. I'll probably rewatch The Brutalist because there are elements of that I'm interested in revisiting, and do a double feature of that and Dog Man, the children's animated Dog Man.
My
not
son
French
loved my son loved the
Dog
Dogman movie. I asked him afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, it was great." And I was like, "Hell yeah." I was like, at first, I was like, the Luc Besson movie? Oh no. Where he's like, where's that? It's got that one guy that's freckle faced actor dude, and he's like, I think he dresses up as a woman, and he's like killing people for his dogs. Because Luc Besson is like French and like totally not tapped into like modern, like he made a movie with like a trans guy who's a psycho. So like, like I think like that's the reason that like no one is talking about that movie.
Yeah, they buried that movie. Caleb Landry Jones, was that the actor?
Caleb Landry Jones. Yeah. Like you'll never see anyone talking about that movie.
I thought you guys were talking about Night Bitch. Do you guys watch Night Bitch?
Night Bitch, Dogman triple feature.
Right, that would be
and Dogtooth from
we still gotta watch Wolfman with Detective Wolfman also.
Oh yeah.
That movie is so bad, bro. Oh my god. Have you guys haven't watched it yet, have you? Any of you?
I haven't watched it. No, I guess it's gonna be a Wolfman Dogman double feature.
It's so
I hated Invisible Man too. So
the way the wolves look, they look like they're like they have some sort of like leprosy or like like there's like they look disgusting.
Skin condition.
They don't
alopecia.
They look like they're dying. They don't look like the threat. They look like they're dying. Like you're like, why would you be scared of this thing? It's just horrible. And then like the little girl in the movie is always constantly referring to fake Jon Snow as daddy the whole time, and it's like in a way that's very like pronounced, like that's not natural. Like you're like, daddy, what are you doing, daddy? Like every line that she has to say to her father is daddy, like in a way that's just so unnatural that it stuck out to me. The movie is just really bad. It's just really fucking bad. And of course, I guess this is like Leigh Whannell's like attempt to redo the Universal monsters, because like he did with the Invisible Man. And I think Hans pointed this out, like, which is like, why would a billionaire be so obsessed with such a attractively challenged woman?
Yeah. Such a homey lady. Yeah.
Very homely.
He's a billionaire. He's like, let me go prank her at 3 a.m, take the blankets off her.
Let me use this high tech. Let me use this high tech technology that's never existed and wasted on fucking.
Just so that I can hang out here in her living room, so that I can at 5 p.m. I can go and scare her. It's like, what? Why would anyone do that shit? Yeah, it makes no fucking sense. It sucks.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for the fucking his next one. I don't know what it's gonna be. Maybe it'll be like The Creature of the Black Lagoon or some shit.
I hope this is the last one of those.
Yeah, this was a flop, wasn't it?
It was a flop, so Jason Blum probably won't shell out the money for it.
It's okay. He'll find someone that's more incompetent.
They'll get Mike Flanagan to take over.
I've never watched someone like go out of their way to completely destroy the brand they created. Like Jason Blum, it's crazy to watch the trajectory of Blumhouse. And like every decision post once they like, I guess, were on top with Get Out and the several other releases.
Yeah. And
like all of a sudden he was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like make really bad stuff and like just give people movies who should never direct. Let's let these people direct this movie. Here, you don't have any skill or talent or ability to fucking point a camera in the direction of anything. Like, here you go. Why don't you make a movie? Okay, great.
They publish books too. They have games division too.
Yeah.
Blumhouse.
Yeah.
Of course, they want to have their fingers in every pot. I mean, Blumhouse has been coasting for so long on the good word of like 1 or 2 films for every 8 disasters that they seem to put out at the box office, and people really just haven't caught on and realized, oh, Jason Blum.
Well, it's because we
it.
talked about this already, though, right? It's because the fan base is horror.
Oh yeah.
So like horror is going to be the most forgiving. Like you can make literally endless amounts of garbage if you have one thing that they like. they'll just grant you that goodwill. Like, they're going to continue to show up for these shitty movies. So
Well, there's been some hits in here. I actually didn't know that Five Nights at Freddy's was a Blumhouse movie.
yeah, it was. Yeah, and that made money, for sure. Again, another one my son liked. He liked it a lot.
It's for kids. Do you guys
Yeah,
see that?
yeah.
I saw that, and it was for kids.
Yeah, it's
It's
definitely a
just
kids movie.
yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, I
Yeesh.
mean, they did Whiplash, which clearly isn't, a horror
Oh,
movie, but
but
kind
how
of
long
is.
ago was that though? That's 20, what, 16?
2014.
14.
Yep.
Fuck.
That was way
Yeah.
back. The Visit. Yeah, they've definitely had some great movies out over the years, but I mean,
The
it's really
Purge
just like
movies were
the
successful for them, I think. The Purge.
yeah
movies.
that's they did a Craft sequel.
Yeah, I think wasn't that like, yeah, I think that was like really no one watched that. I think it was like
You
really.
know what this looks like, that Black Christmas remake?
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
god, have you guys
Right?
seen? Have you guys seen that Black Christmas?
Oh yeah.
no, I
Oh
haven't.
my god, it is so. Oh,
It's so
it is
bad.
so bad. The ending, Hans. The ending. It is
I
the
don't
most.
even. I'm honestly, I don't even. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember.
What
I
is
just
the
remember
ending?
that as I was watching it, I was like, "What's the point of
They're
this
like frat.
existing?
It's
It
like
has
it's like an
nothing
evil
to do."
frat. It's like evil frat bros, and they're like,
Oh yeah, they spoil that in the trailer. There's like a cult society of killers, and it clearly has nothing at all to even remotely resemble that first Black
no,
Christmas
not at all.
movie.
Nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
No,
And
no,
it's like
nothing at all. The
it's like
name.
that, like, what is it?
I thought you were gonna say Ratatouille.
Rad feminist, but like dumb, like, like that shitty, like, white feminism,
Oh
like
yeah,
Mhm.
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
that that's what it is, like, like
It's
it's
21-year-old white girl feminism.
yeah, it's like very divorced from anything that's actually like
But
like useful,
so
or like.
Loris, you said that they're cruising, but if you look at from 2020 on, how many hits are here? Right? You got uh
I
Well,
mean,
Invisible Man was a hit.
Freaky was a hit,
oh,
right?
okay.
They don't. Jason Blum's model is like he only spends a certain amount of money on these movies, so like they just have to be somewhat. Like they don't even have to be big profits. A lot of these movies are profitable because they make their money back. He doesn't
Mhm.
spend that much on a lot of these fucking movies. So
No, all you need is one sizable hit, and then suddenly you've recovered for
the
about 6 or
Halloween, like,
7.
remember when he had the
Uh,
three Halloween movies with what's
David
his
Gordon
name?
Green.
David Gordon Green, right?
Mhm.
He coasted for like years. The that trilogy was like literally, he was like, we're gonna make all our money back with these stupid ass Halloween movies. So I'm just gonna green light all this garbage shit in between all three of them. And like I think yeah, he's just all he needs is like one of those. And I
well,
think
speaking of another this movie that I
oh,
thought was a big
Derrickson,
piece
yeah,
Yeah.
of
just
shit.
Scott
And he
Derrickson.
made
Yeah.
what, 160 million or something. So now they're doing a second one, even though
But let's
there's
see how
no
much the
story.
okay, but let's see how much the Gorge made. And
Right.
that's Scott Derrickson as well.
What else? Megan was.
Megan
that
was
it?
a hit.
Megan was a hit. I think there's a sequel for that. I still haven't watched that. I don't think I will.
Oh, the Speak No Evil remake. Of course, when you watch it, it makes total sense that was a Blumhouse movie.
Oh, that's the one you said was.
Yeah, that was
piece
so
of shit,
bad.
Yeah.
What is that?
Imaginary.
What's imaginary?
Yeah, that was the other doll that comes to life and kills movie. Patrick Wilson directed Insidious.
Yeah, the last
Yeah, the
one.
last one.
The last one. He was able
Oh,
to say
wow.
he was able to basically be like, listen, guys, I've been in all these movies. You're gonna let me direct. And that's why no
Okay.
one talks about that Insidious movie.
Oh, The
Yeah,
Mummy
what?
is what's up next.
Who's
Yeah,
Nick
see,
Stone?
they got, but it's Lee Corin. I heard Lee Corin got fired off of his last movie.
What is he known for?
The
Evil Dead Rise.
The Evil Dead Rise. Not he didn't fire it off of that. Did he? Somebody told me. I need to verify that. What else? Evil Dead Rise did good, right? I'm pretty sure it did.
I think so. For an Evil Dead movie, especially, they never seem to do box office numbers. But I think Evil Dead Rise was enough of a success that they're going to do another one.
Maybe it wasn't Lee that got fired off of. Maybe it was the dude who did Pig, who did the sequel to the third movie to the A Quiet Place. I think he got fired off of the movie in
There's
the
a
edit.
third Quiet Place.
It's like a prequel. It came out. It has Lupita Nyong'o. It's like the Quiet Place, the date. It's like how the whole. I've never watched it. It came out
It's
though.
how can we milk this franchise
Yeah,
more?
basically,
It's how
basically.
can we
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Jesus?
I think like
So
they fired him or something in post or something. I don't know.
They
Or
should fire all these people.
They took the
frankly.
movie from him. Basically, he lost and he didn't have final cut. Some shit like that. I don't know.
Don't remind me that there's another Exorcist by Mike Flanagan that's supposed to be coming out. That's very.
Mike Flanagan, every horror's darling.
horror for ladies, horror for girls. That's what that is. That's why it works. That's why he's made so much money because it's just horror for girls.
Well, for a certain type of girl.
Well, it looks like there's going to be plenty of films to look forward to from Blumhouse for the next foreseeable decade, at least. It looks like
I don't know. This is
that's a lot of movies to be putting out in 1 year for
Yeah,
for
Megan
any
2.0.
studio.
That's all coming out in 2025.
apparently, yeah.
Untitled Exorcist film. You know that's going to be bad. I'm sure they'll like it because it's Mike Flanagan, though. Untitled Insidious film. They don't even have a director listed for that. They just know they're going to put one out. They just have the date.
Did you see the last one, Ryan?
No,
Is it
I get.
or is it?
No, I didn't. I just stopped because wasn't the guy who did the Taking of Deborah Logan the director? I know he got fired off of one of those Insidious movies. I know that for a fact. Adam, what was that guy's name? Adam, blonde guy. Was I think one of Brian Singer's proteges.
Protege is an interesting word to say with Brian
One of
Singer.
Brian Singer's proteges, yeah.
Oh, did you guys see that Kevin Spacey is trying to turn the tape? Speaking of Guy Pearce and the Brutalist earlier, Guy Pearce was like, yeah, he was scoping me out. I felt like I was his prey, da 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 da. And then Kevin Spacey's like, oh, really? Is that why you took a flight straight to my house months after production on LA Confidential? And you were leading, he said, you were leading me on. Are you outing Guy Pearce in this video, Kevin Spacey?
Oh,
A married man like
Wait a minute.
Guy Pearce?
Guy likes guys.
Well,
We're in a simulation. Holy shit.
Everyone in Hollywood is fucking gay. Come on. Everyone sucked a dick up there. Everyone's taking it up the butt. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a career.
Pause.
everybody.
No, I don't know.
Ryan here can talk about it.
No.
Has been
And
to this
I
DD party.
know-
I don't know. Who starred in more movies on this podcast, Hans?
Well, I can. Well, not Hollywood though. It's just you. It's just like, it's worse because like, Lord, I'm not even getting rich. I'm broke and getting abused over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all that to say, Hollywood's terrible. Go watch Cinema of Denmark, like Pusher 2 and 3. Two classics of the aughts. Great movies, terrific films. We can close the show out on that note so I can eat my dinner at 10
As
p.m.
right
here.
behind me, there's eating nasty Milo's food on the screen. So
Yes, hopefully it doesn't end the same way.
Ends with you shitting and exorcist shitting out your ass.
Yeah. All right. Ryan, thank you so much for coming back and talking about the subsequent Pusher films for this episode.
Thanks for having me, fellas. It was good as usual. Watch these movies, people, because they are good. Unlike some of the movies we were talking about.
No, when Blumhouse eventually does their Pusher remake, I'm sure it'll feature a girl power moment where the prostitute fights back against Milo, and they'll get Zlatko Buric to reprise his role. It'll be great. It'll be a fantastic time. Everybody go check out Ryan's podcast, MAS. We'll have a link for that in the description of this episode. And if you are watching this episode on patreon.com/lowres in the $5 tier, here's just a heads up. Hans and I are going to be going live on YouTube tomorrow night at, what time you want to do, Hans? Let's say 7?
Yeah.
7 p.m. Eastern time to talk about Nicolas Winding Refn's Drive, which I just watched for the first time in a little bit, only a couple of days ago. We're going to be digging into that. There will be a link to that on Patreon. But if you're listening to this, actually, this comes out on Thursday. for this week. It'll be the B episode since we're keeping up our Nicolas Winding Refn marathon. The Vox Lux episode we were talking about earlier won't be out for several weeks. I guess we're going to do a Brady Corbet run as well. So get ready for that, Hans.
Like
you better
Brady
put
Sorbet. Brady Sorbet. Sorry.
Be ready to put almost 4 hours of your day aside for The Brutalist. It's happening. It's happening. All right. That has been Movies for this week. Thank you for listening.